All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. And today I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks to consider when buying a used PC or laptop. So I'm going to keep this brief, and kind of the inspiration for this video is me buying this Dell XPS 15 9560 laptop. So this I found for $150. It's not a newer laptop. It was made in 2019, 16 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte hard drive. It has a 4 gigabyte video card, a 4K screen, backlit keyboard, all those things. It has like an aluminum chassis, and then it has a carbon fiber composite palm rest. So it was a really good deal. So that gets me into the first point. You need a computer. Number one, be vigilant on the platform that you're looking to buy on. For me, my platform of choice has been Facebook Marketplace for a long time. And I know there's a lot of like mess and a lot of sifting through on that platform, but I think it's a good opportunity. When it first came out, I feel like it was at its best, to where it was less ad saturated, and it would actually just show you things as they were listed. The algorithm really wasn't pushing this or that at you as much, and you would just refresh to see what was, posted most recently, and if you were searching for something specific, you could search for that. Now I think it's really primarily designed to sell ads, so it's pushing a lot of like non-marketplace ads at you for subscription services and buying things and other places, which is okay. Like, it's free, we don't pay for it. It has to be funded somehow. So just keep that in mind. I would say if that is your platform, and just checking it frequently, it just depends on how quickly you need the item.
All right, folks, so this part isn't really rocket science. If something's a good deal, it probably won't last long on Marketplace. And I would say if you're looking at a platform like eBay, you can have saved searches where you actually get alerts when something pops up that meets your criteria. So definitely take advantage of that. I think a lot of websites are moving towards that. I know eBay and Marketplace are big ones. Lately, I've just been about buying local just because I've found that there's greater quality. And with eBay, I found I have to get on and really dig through descriptions and kind of catch things that might be missing, like no charger or no backplate, just random stuff like that. So results may vary, but that's just my perspective on this particular piece.
Pictures are proof of concept. So on these platforms, even eBay and Marketplace and other platforms like Poshmark and things like that, now more than ever, pictures really tell the entire story. I feel like in the past, because, especially in the 2000s and the 2010s, cameras weren't as good. The pictures you uploaded were like downgraded to a very basic resolution, so you really couldn't see that much detail. And now it's just understood to look at the pictures. Like, a lot of times you have a grading system on whatever site you're looking on, and it'll say new, like new, good, fair. And a lot of people will just select good off the rip, and it's like, that could mean so much. And they'll say computer's in good condition, has some wear and tear, see pictures. And it's important to look at the pictures for cracks, dings, dents, scratches, and damage, because a lot of times people will not list them in the listing. And if you meet somebody in the morning and you give it a once over and you're going to work or something, you could miss a crack or something people don't necessarily put in writing on the ad. And they'll say, well, the picture was there, and you look back and sure enough, it shows the screen with a crack on it. And I would also say, when you're looking at an ad, be sure the pictures are consistent and of the same type of product. So 2 things that I really look out for with pictures is, one, are the pictures taken in the same cycle of life? Because sometimes people will post pictures of something they got when they're new, and then they'll show pictures of the current condition, and you got 5 pictures of when it was new because it was great lighting and they were just happy to have it, and then they rushed and took a picture of the item in the seat of their car. And just side note, that is always a red flag for me. I love to see things on an uncluttered surface, preferably a counter or a desk. When things are cluttered, you see like electronics sitting on top of socks, dirty laundry, the room looks crazy. To me, it just says this person really didn't have the capacity or doesn't have the capacity to have this in an uncluttered, cared for environment. So therefore, I'm out. And then I would also make sure that they are pictures of the same item. So many times, and we've all done this, you're like taking a picture of something and you take several pictures, but in your phone, stuff in a gallery, pictures can run over. So you may have several laptops or several articles of clothing that you're selling, and things can run over if you don't really look closely, or people just can post stuff by accident. Number 3 thing, and I'm sorry, this is kind of informal, is have an idea of what you would like to buy. And so I'm going to recommend 2 brands that I would primarily look for. Even though we have Acers at work, I think that's a sketchy brand. They've gone more into enterprise systems because they make them for cheap. You know, they're cheaper than HP and Dell, and they're good products, but I would say if you're buying, you know, a desktop or a laptop that's 5 or 6 years old, I wouldn't get an Acer or any of those like Walmart-y type brands. Me personally, I stick with Dell only. Like Dell is like the Samsung of PCs for me. Apple is the Apple of MacBooks. But I would say HP is another brand. I don't really fool with HP as much because I haven't kept up with their model line, and I feel like it's just easier to see what Dell has going on. I know I want one of their premium notebooks, so I'm going to do the Dell 7000 series, or bare minimum the Latitude 5000 series. But yeah, Latitude 7000, 5000 series, preferably 7000. Make sure you pay close attention in the picture as to what processor it has. And then also, like, if you can find out the model number should be in the description or in one of the pictures. If not, it's a red flag to me. It's pertaining to all PCs, really. If the processor's older than an 8th generation, it cannot upgrade to Windows 11, which is a big thing. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about that, but Windows 10 is being discontinued. So if you buy a laptop with Windows 10, that's fine. Just make sure the processor's upgradable, and so it'd have to be an 8th gen or later. The 4th thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask questions. So when you're buying things online, sometimes people do not make a good description. On the sale of this item, one of the reasons it lasted more than 4 hours on Marketplace is he put Dell XPS laptop and he listed the video card model. Now this guy wasn't hurting for money. He said he was clearing out his man cave, and I love to see that. Just because an ad doesn't have details doesn't mean the person's trying to be deceptive. You just may need to ask some questions because they have life going on, they're rushing, like I mentioned earlier. And so I personally feel like if the description and the pictures don't give me a good picture of what the product is, I'll ask them for additional pictures, or I'll just ask questions about the item. And I don't mind if somebody's like, hey, it's my wife's or my husband's. I don't really know. I'm just selling it for them because I'm a little bit more tech savvy. In that case, I might ask them, hey, can you find out? If it's your partner or your spouse or something like that, they should be pretty close by to be able to answer some questions. And if they don't know, I'm probably not going to take the risk, even if it's under $200. Like, I like buying used laptops under $200. And I found some really, really good deals throughout the years. But again, it doesn't come without questioning, without doing a little bit of deep digging, and you have to do it quick. Thankfully, I'm pretty tech savvy, so I can look through photos and descriptions and gain an understanding pretty quickly. If you don't, you may need to slow down and spend a little bit more money just to make sure you're getting something that you can actually use. Even if you're spending $200, if you can't use the item, then you just wasted $200, and nobody wants to do that. Going back to the pictures and things, and I should have mentioned this too, that the model number listed in the photo or in the descriptions kind of match up. And then also when you're asking questions, ask questions about the details of the item, especially for more pictures, just because a model number can mean a myriad of things. Like a lot of computers can be ordered under a certain model number with widely varying specs. Does it have a 4K display? Or computers are almost customizable like cars. They come with certain sets of things by trim. You know, if it has a 1080p, it probably has a backlit keyboard and so on and so forth. But you just never know until you ask those questions. So the 5th thing I would say is verify what you've learned in person. So a lot of times people may be selling multiple items. They may hand you the wrong item by accident, or a lot of times people are selling things and they don't bring all the accessories with them. So there's a lot of little nuanced things when you're just buying things in general. A lot of times what I'll do is say, okay, hey, I'll meet you here at this time in this place. And I like for it to be a public place that's not super crowded. Like, I don't want to meet you in the front parking lot of a Buc-ee's because there's so much traffic, I feel uncomfortable really looking at the item. So, I'll usually meet at like a Quick Trip or like a Walgreens parking lot. People make mistakes. We all have life going on. So I want to get what I actually saw in the ad. And I will message people and say, hey, can you meet me at this time, at this day? And just can you make sure all the accessories you mentioned are there with it? And a lot of times, even prior to that, I'll say, hey, do you still have the charger, the mouse, the this? Because people will randomly get rid of stuff that really, especially when you're buying like this laptop or a MacBook, it's like if you have a Mac accessory that you listed, I know I'm getting a little off topic with the Mac, but I want that item. If I'm buying this thing for $500 and you say you have a Magic Mouse, I want the Magic Mouse. I want the actual Apple charger. I don't want a third-party charger that you swapped out. Oh man, I couldn't find it. If you can't find it, let me know. I want to actually receive what I saw in the ad and what I talked to you about. And I would say this, like, take your time when looking at stuff. Like, don't waste people's time. If you're buying a computer or really anything, you don't know much about it, take your spouse, take your cousin, take your brother or sister that knows with you so that they have a keen eye and they can, in 5 minutes or less, determine whether or not this is what you intended to buy. That's really important. I've sold things to people and they had no idea, what they're doing, which is fine. There's grace, but there's grace as long as you're not suspicious because you don't know anything about what you're buying. And now there's extra onus on me to prove that like you're getting what you think you want or something like that. So that gets kind of frustrating. The sixth thing that I would say is have an idea of what you want. So like if you're buying a PC, do I want a desktop? Do I want a laptop?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video up here. I could get in the weeds and go on for hours about buying cheap desktop computers or laptops. We're not going to do that. I'll leave you with some final thoughts. The first thought is that you want to understand what your needs are, because we're talking about cheap computers here. Spending $200 is probably not going to kill you. However, interacting with something on the daily or several times a week that doesn't have the utility you need could be frustrating. So sometimes slowing down and getting an education, even if you don't save any money, will be much more valuable to you when you sit down and realize the computer has the ports that you need, it has the screen size you need, has the battery life, all the things. And sometimes it's a learning process, so definitely reach out to people who know a little bit more than you and kind of go from there. I'll give you an example, like if you were looking for something for your family and your kids are going to be sitting around this device, having a laptop where they might be able to drop off of a couch or a table is probably not going to be ideal. You may say, hey, I'm just going to stop, save a little bit more money, get a desktop PC with a larger screen and it's stationary, and the kids can have, a better viewing experience that way. And then also mom and dad can use it. It's in a central location, and it's going to be a little bit more durable from less touching or just, less moving parts. So that's one thing. And then understand computers can be upgraded. So if you do a little bit of DIY research on YouTube, you could potentially buy a laptop or a desktop computer where you can upgrade the RAM, you can upgrade the hard drive. If you're really feeling jazzy, you could buy a laptop and update the screen. If it has like a 720p display, you can grade it to a 1080p. That's getting into the weeds a little bit, but you want to kind of monitor that and understand that some small, thin laptops, thin, slimline desktops cannot be modified as far as like memory with the RAM or potentially the hard drive sometimes. Most of the time the hard drive can be upgraded, but it just depends. And the smaller the computer, a lot of times the harder it is to really get in there and do that type of thing. So again, we could get in the weeds in that all day, but thank you for watching. If there's something that you think I missed or some questions you have, definitely feel free to put them in the comments. I'm sure there'll be others down there that are willing to answer as I hop in as well, but I will catch you in the next video.